Welcome everyone in the audience. We have a full agenda this evening. And first I would like to just go through the roll call of the councillors that are present this evening. On my right is Councillor Diane Rajema. She is the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Tony Brunet is next. And Councillor Adam Russell. On my left is Councillor Paul McPherson, Councillor Mike Mikulik, Councillor Lynn Timmers, and Councillor Greg Reimer. And Councillor John Pachariva is absent this evening. We have no proclamations this evening. However, we do have two presentations, and the first is with Niagara College, and the second is Elizabeth Zimmerman from the YWCA. So welcome to you both. I have a few comments to make. You know, it's always really satisfying when a vision that you had or have comes to fruition. And one of the visions that I had before I became mayor was that in Lincoln, that sometime we would have a campus here for higher education at the college and the university level. And it really was a vision because, of course, this is the last thing that the province wants, is to spend more money on bricks and mortar. But there's many, many different ways to achieve your goals, particularly when you have really good partners that have shared visions and are willing to work with you. I would like to welcome Niagara College for being here this evening to announce and celebrate a formal signing of a memorandum of understanding that will see the municipality and college collaborate to explore, facilitate, and support social and economic development in Niagara's agribusiness sector. We understand that while we may not be the first municipality to sign an MOU with Niagara College, we can say that this memorandum of understanding is the first of its kind for Niagara College in terms of research and student experience collaborating with the municipality. The thing about Niagara colleges, and you see this when you hang around with the president, they have innovation, they have an intelligence, they have energy, and they really believe that you can accomplish just about anything you want to if you go about it the right way. And you'll see that over and over again. And I'm proud to say that Lincoln is becoming a center of educational innovation with this second MOU. Niagara College is known for their specialization in agri-food and business. The opportunities for us are significant, and we look forward to the progression of the MOU and the fruits it will bear. Not just for the students that are at Niagara College now, and not just for students that come from away, but to encourage the youth of Lincoln to understand that higher education is extremely important. And when you can demonstrate that by having those examples right on your own turf, I think it will go a long way, because we've always had that attitude in Lincoln ever since we had the Vineland Research and Innovation Center, when it was called the Farm. That's where the Education Trust was in this community. So now I'd like to introduce the team from Niagara College. Dan Patterson is the Niagara College President. Al Unwin, the Associate Dean, School of Environmental and Horticultural Studies, are the two that I think are coming up to sign with Councillor McPherson and myself. And we also have Patrick Robson. Patrick Robson is also here this evening. Thank you very much for calling Patrick. Patrick, are you coming up to sign? All right, gentlemen, if you just come forward. First of all, President Patterson and Associate Dean Al Unwin are going to have a few words for us. And then we're going to sign the documents.
Well, good evening, everyone. Mayor Easton, it's a pleasure to be here with your council and for your very kind comments. It is very exciting for us to sign this memorandum of understanding. I think it really fits into our vision and your vision of the future. And when you spoke about the youth of Lincoln, I think it really does address that, because it does speak to the opportunities for applied research in various projects. There really is really something that really hits home when you think of a college education is its applied nature. It's hands-on from theory to experience. And this memorandum outlines some great opportunities that we see our students undertaking with projects and real-world experience. And your comment about the Agri-Food Center. When you look at all the major sectors of our economy here in Niagara, you will see programs and services that really support the economy through our programming. One in particular, though, is our growth in the agri-food sector. A very recent report from the federal government called the Barton Report talked about that Canada could be taking much more advantage of our agri-sector in terms of generating wealth and generating jobs, and through the use of technology and developing a highly skilled workforce. So this memorandum really does speak about giving our students, the youth from around Niagara and Lincoln, the opportunity for some hands-on experience and opportunity. So we welcome this very, very much. It's breaking new ground for us here in Lincoln, and we really look forward and wanted to thank everyone that's helped us, and particularly Mike, the CAO, who has worked with us, and we went through it. I also would like to acknowledge my colleagues that are here with me. Al Unwin, who heads up the horticulture and environmental division of our college, and has been instrumental in leading a very new initiative in commercial cannabis production. And we've done some very exciting work in precision agriculture. And so Al Unwin's area, a lot of exciting things happening, as well as now Professor Patrick Robson, who I know is a household name here in Lincoln, and an extraordinary teacher, very passionate, and brings his expertise as we built this memorandum of understanding, and Andrew Korchak, head of our media, who's here with us today. So we're delighted to be here. I don't know, Al, if you wanted to say a word or two, but I think we've captured, and we appreciate the busy schedule of everyone here tonight. But again, this is the beginning as we sign the spirit of working together, but already we have some really exciting opportunities, I think, that we can together pursue and create a stronger Niagara. So thank you.
Thank you very much, President Patterson, and congratulations, Professor Patrick Robbins. Thank you. Very nice. All right, we'll come forward. Mike will sign on behalf of the corporation, along with myself, witnessed by Councillor McPherson as the Chair of Economic Development and Planning. Is that, okay, thank you.
There's two copies, one for you to take as well.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to sign both.
This is very exciting. Good to see you. Okay.
There, a pen for you. Okay. So we'll have Dan and the mayor sign.
Sorry.
Great.
way?
Yeah, we're gonna face this way, yeah. And then we'll get you guys to see, yeah, I think on this side. If we can just
What's the best
scooch a little
lineup?
more this
Okay.
way. A little bit more this way. Mayor, can you come more towards here?
Wonderful.
Thanks very much.
Okay, pleasure, pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
Forward to it.
Okay, yes, indeed.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I thought it was gonna take you a lot longer to sign.
So I'll just say, council, that it's at times like this that you realize that you can have great ideas, but if you don't have people, in our case, in the staff who can share that idea and are willing to carry it forward, you just don't get the results that you want. So I want to thank Mike, and I believe Carrie was very involved, certainly with the preparations for tonight. And I'm sure that Patrick Robson had a few things to say about this as well, so thank you all very much. It's very important. All right, well, Elizabeth, come forward. Starting on such a high note. Do you know, Elizabeth, you're going to have to stand there for a few minutes because I'm so excited about what we just did that I'm not following, and I don't want to get myself into much more trouble with the clerks. I need to read a safety notice, and maybe tonight it'll be more important than others. So in the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors and obey all instructions given by the clerk. And if assistance is required, please see the clerk. And the clerk is Julie Kirkledos right here. Once you have evacuated the building, please gather in the front parking lot outside of the town hall. Also, the Town of Lincoln Committee and Council meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. I would like to thank the public for attending the meeting this evening, and I just want to remind everyone of our rules of engagement, to please be respectful and to remind when others are speaking, and to please refrain from clapping. Delegations will have 5 minutes to speak and are asked to stay focused on the agenda item. As it is our custom now, we are reading the land acknowledgement. The Shononton people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recent, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. There are no proclamations this evening. And our second presentation is Elizabeth Zimmerman. And I'm looking to see if there's any notes. Elizabeth Zimmerman is from the YWCA and of the Niagara region. And the YWCA presents programs that I think you're going to be very interested in hearing about tonight, and also the Coldest Night event. And I see that Carol Frewer is here as well, who's the executive director of our local community care of West Niagara. So Elizabeth, the podium is yours, and when you're finished, I'll give you a little bit of leeway on the 5 minutes, because I know you have a lot to tell us, and then the council will ask questions.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Mayor Easton and council members and staff for the opportunity to come and speak tonight. As the mayor has indicated, I'm here to talk about our Coldest Night of the Year event. But I'd like to take a minute to talk about who the YWCA is and why this is an important event, not only for us, but for the larger community. So the YWCA Niagara Region offers shelters for homeless women and their families. We operate shelters in St. Catharines, Niagara Falls. We also have supported transitional housing programs. These are programs that are up to generally a year, year and a half, and offer women and their families stable housing and supports, and give them that opportunity to stabilize their lives and work on those issues that have generally brought them to the point of homelessness. It can be a broad range of issues that bring someone to that point, but the underlying cause in all cases is poverty. It is always an income issue that leads to homelessness. So it's important to be able to provide those supports and work with families for that period of time to hopefully lift them out of poverty and move them along the continuum so they become self-sufficient. So on that, one of those transitional housing programs we operate here in West Niagara. We have about 25 units of housing between Grimsby and Lincoln, and those units of housing provide individuals, primarily women and women-led families, with those supports and the opportunities to rebuild their lives after a period of great difficulty. The Coldest Night of the Year event is a national event. There are several events happening across the region supporting other local organizations, and this event will go towards, the funds that are raised go towards supporting this program that we operate here in West Niagara. We operate that program both on behalf of the YWCA, but on behalf of West Niagara Affordable Housing, formerly known as Grimsby Affordable Housing Partnership, which I'm sure there are lots who are familiar with that organization. They came to us a few years ago because, as many small organizations, they were struggling to be able to provide the service that they needed and be able to provide also the administrative support. So in their wisdom, they came to us and we took over the program and are operating it on their behalf. And so in doing so, we have been able to expand it so that we are offering services in Lincoln, but also to ensure that that program can continue to exist. But as all of these things, they do need supports. We do receive regional funding through the homelessness, through their homelessness funding resources, but in most cases that funding is not quite adequate to ensure the quality and extent of the services that we want to provide. So on average, every year we are supporting, and you'll see that we've given you a package. That package has our most recent gratitude report. It has some numbers in there. You'll see what kind of services we're providing, gives you a little bit more of a breakdown in some of our success stories, but also the amount of people that we are supporting every year. Just to give you a quick view, just in terms of our shelters alone, our just women's shelters, it's over 700 women that we're seeing. One of the things that the story that's not often told is we think of homelessness often as that individual who's street involved, who's maybe, that image of someone pushing a buggy down the street. But in the most recent point in time count, 25% of those who were homeless on that particular day were children under the age of 18. And so that is a story that's not often told, that there are many children, many families who are experiencing homelessness. And again, as I said, this is a poverty issue. I know this council has looked seriously at and is considering what they can do in this region, in this community, around affordable housing. And affordable housing has become, it is probably one of the most important issues we're facing right now. We are seeing in the shelter system an average of 110% occupancy. 2.5 years ago, it was about 80% occupancy. So we've seen an exponential increase in the number of individuals experiencing homelessness in the last couple of years. It is absolutely coincides with the incredible increase in the cost of housing. So not only has housing itself increased in cost, but along with that, the rental market has increased. Not only has the rental market increased, but our vacancy rates are among the lowest that they have been in many, many years. So it's created a perfect storm, and we are absolutely sitting in a housing crisis. And we are the canaries in the coal mine in the shelter system. We are the ones we've seen the consequence of it. So I bring to you my appreciation in that this council is recognizing the importance of affordable housing and looking to see what you can do in this community. And I know my colleague will absolutely attest to the pressure that she's seeing in her organization in terms of the families that are coming through the doors of community care and how much pressure they're under to try to maintain their housing. It's worth all of us to ensure that everyone has housing, that everyone is able to afford the housing they're in, that it's safe, that it's adequate, and that it meets the needs of their families. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about that, but also to help you understand the importance. And I'm so, again, appreciative. I know Mayor has taken initiative already that you as council have put in a team, and we appreciate the support that you've given us in the past years, because that support goes beyond the doors of this council chamber, but tells the community that you see this as an issue that is worthwhile supporting, and certainly we appreciate that. So we're asking again this year that you will continue to provide that support to the YWCA, but mostly to the families that we serve, and recognizing that we are a solution in terms of supporting those families as they bridge that gap to the point where they can be self-sufficient again. So I brought along a hat for you, Mayor, as well as I would ask, there's a poster here that I'm going to ask if you could put up. And I know there's save the date cards and other information in the packages that we've left. I'll just hand this over to you. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I guess I need to put this hat on, right?
That's right, if you can. Aren't they? I liked the colors this year.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you. This is peer pressure over here. Well, I have to tell you that I know that CAO Kirkopoulos has been to the YW, and I have been there. And you have to go there to understand what Elizabeth is talking about, and see where people come from and see the demand, see the couches that people sleep on. The couch in their boardroom is someone's bedroom. And this is just the face of it. It's just, when she talks about pressure, you just don't understand it until you see it. I had a great conversation the day I was there with a lady that had come from the Middle East. She and I were communicating on her smartphone because she was able to translate. I think she was from Egypt, was she? At any rate, we were having a great conversation. That was quite an interesting experience, but it was a bit heartbreaking as well because she had a 4-year-old daughter that was trying to make an adjustment to this country and this society. It was quite interesting. So I'll open the floor up. Questions to Elizabeth? I'm sure she'd welcome you anytime. Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mary Stin. Through you to Elizabeth, thank you very much for coming out tonight. I have visited the Y as well, and I spent about a decade working at Bethlehem Housing and Support Services, so I've seen a few things there and have a fairly good understanding of what they're facing. The numbers, 110 occupancy rate from 2 years ago. That's a little frightening, you know, because you just see it climbing. And I hate to think where we're going. I hope we can turn it around. And I'd like to just encourage everyone to participate in this event. Coldest Night of the Year is a fantastic event. I've been out for a few years now, and it's always great, and I really encourage everyone to come out. And I'm actually going to be able to walk it this year. So Anyway, just thank you very much, Elizabeth, for coming in tonight, and to Carol for as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much for coming out and speaking with us about everything that you presented to us tonight. So you were speaking about the West Niagara Affordable Housing and how they've taken over, or you have taken over, their program with the 25 transitional units. Have I got that right? Okay, so I'm wondering, I have two questions. One, what role, I wish I knew a little bit more about what West Niagara Affordable Housing does, but what role have they taken now that they've passed this, the 25 units of transitional housing over to you, to the YWCA? And also, do you have any suggestions? Affordable housing is a huge, huge issue. It's hard to figure out where to tackle it and what angle to take. Do you have any suggestions to us as a council, some serious concrete steps that we can take from this day forward?
So I'll answer your first question around West Niagara Affordable Housing. They actually did so Grimsby Affordable Housing Partnership and Lincoln Association for Affordable Housing merged about 2 years ago, went through a strategic plan, and so formed West Niagara Affordable Housing, and I know currently are looking at opportunities for potentially a capital build for affordable housing. I still do work very closely with them because in a sense, the organization still exists and I am accountable, or our program is still accountable to them. It is a joint partnership, and so, but they are looking beyond that to see what else they can do because of course they're recognizing the importance of that issue. So in terms of concrete ideas, I think municipalities need to recognize the influence that they have just in terms of their own official plans and understanding that when there is development, that there is an opportunity for, in those developments, for more affordable housing. There's many ways that, if we look at secondary suites, infills, additional opportunities to be creative as far as those kinds of types of housing that could be lower income housing. There's now, it's also working with the region and Niagara Regional Housing to look at more opportunities in terms of things like rent supplements or rent subsidies. So those are other opportunities to help those in the community stay in the community because I know that Carol will agree with me on this, and in my days working at Community Care of West Niagara, one of the things that became really challenging for me was, it's going back a few years, but some of those issues were in existence already then in this community. It was, we would see women-led families who ended up having to leave the community because they couldn't maintain their housing. So it's looking for some of those creative solutions like rent subsidies in the immediate. But again, I would really encourage you to look at your official plans, at the development that you're doing and ensure that there's opportunities for developers to develop affordable housing. So whether that's also through incentives like the waiving of development fees or building permits, looking at lands that are potentially surplus or brownfield, or there's ways to create those innovative ways of responding. I know that, I'm not sure if Bethlehem Projects has ever been here to talk about some of their work, but they've developed they're in the process of developing a project in downtown St. Catharines, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, but what impresses me about it is the relationship that they've built both with a developer, their organization, and then through government, local municipal incentives to be able to make a project that makes fiscal sense, financial sense, both for the developer as well as for the for this organization. Many good quality affordable housing projects are mixed market rents. So you have a mix of affordable, which is 80% of market rent, full market rent, and those that are lower, lower rents for those who market rent is still, 80% of market rent is still unaffordable. So to give you an example of that, any one single person on social assistance is getting about $700 a month. The average one-bedroom, bachelors are very hard to come by, but a one-bedroom apartment in St. Catharines and here is going from anywhere from $800 to $1,100 to $1,400 a month. So the math doesn't work. So there has to be some kind of subsidies or rent geared to incomes in the mix. So it's about a continuum of housing. It's about ensuring that we have every kind of housing that can support any kind of family. We don't want to see families move out of their home community. And particularly when, again, I'm going to look at Carol because I know she's going to agree with me, when we see families, they have their social supports, whether it's mom that lives down the street and can pick up the kids after school while they're at work or back to school or whatever they're doing. It creates a lot of pressure on a family if they have to leave those supports behind. So there's lots of good reasons for a community like the town of Lincoln to look at ensuring that in your plans, affordable housing is a priority. I hope that answers your question.
It does answer my question, and it gives rise to other questions. There's lots of things spinning through my head, but it's a complex issue. It's a multifaceted issue, and there's lots of ways to. But what I am hearing is that one method of getting to a successful answer is collaboration. So I think we have to keep that top of mind as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mrs. Zimmer or Ms. Zimmerman. Thanks for coming in tonight. I know myself being a new councillor, often I read in the media things about homelessness and unaffordable housing, and it often, the messaging gets lost in just hearing general numbers, but when you get some specifics on it, I find it just makes it a little bit more relevant, so thank you for coming, bringing the exposure out. For myself and the other new councillors, is there an opportunity to come and maybe tour the YW or volunteer opportunities, and maybe the people at home that are watching through YouTube, again, to try to, maybe help out a little bit, but also kind of really get the immediate need and the full impact from a personal standpoint of how the situation really is rooted. And again, I go back to Councillor Timmer's bit of information about, again, going up to 110% occupancy over the last couple of years. That's like confounding. So is there anything like that that might be available to new councillors?
Absolutely. I would encourage anybody who's interested to connect with me. I'm happy to host a meeting to have you come in and give you a tour of our shelter, to just give you that understanding of what's happening on the ground. I would absolutely welcome that. And certainly we rely on volunteers. It's an important part of how we're able to do our work. And so again, would welcome that. Would welcome to have you come in if you're interested in supporting our work. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for asking the question.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Renee.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Thank you for coming in, Elizabeth. I just wanted to kind of reinforce what some of the other councillors have spoken about. So during the election, during the campaign, we all kind of, before we go out door to door, we kind of, develop a website and kind of have pillars that we're going to stand on for the next 4 years. And so certainly I can tell you that I did a number of deep dives into affordable housing and what was deemed as far back as 2008, when I did some research that a council in Lincoln in 2008 identified affordable housing as a crisis situation in 2008. And when I look here now 11 years later, I kind of question as to what we have done, and that's not to belittle anything that you guys are doing across the region. But as a council, I believe we need to do more, and I certainly, along with a number of councils, have been pushing this. I know we've had serious conversations with our CAO, and I do believe, as you've articulated to Councillor Ringema, there really is a, call it whatever you want, but a bit of a skepticism in terms of when you talk about affordable housing and what that looks like. And certainly, couldn't agree with you more that when we sit down with developers, it's definitely imperative on us that we make sure that when we're sitting down with developers like New Horizon and this development comes up on Green Lane, that as a council, we ensure that there will be some portion of that development that looks like affordable housing. And we need to work, as you've said, with the region to make sure cooperative housing and housing linked to ability to pay is brought to another level, and to work with organizations like Bethlehem Housing, which I do believe, there has been discussions with our organization. So I really thank you for coming here, keeping this in the forefront, and the work you've done with Coldest Night of the Year. My wife and I have participated in that in the last 3 years, and we'll be there again this year. So thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Is there anyone else? Well, there certainly is a need, and we could start putting this on the Planning Committee agenda, and I'm sure it would be there for a long time. Needs are so great. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and for your suggestions, and thank you again for the leadership that you're providing to support the Coldest Night of the Year. It makes it easier for the rest of us to come with teams, but knowing that that main organization is there to push the evening forward it is a relief. We don't have to worry about anything, just showing up.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity and for the questions and for understanding the need in this community. And you've got a great wealth of information here, I know, and certainly I extend my help at any point if there's anything that I can do as you look at this issue, and if there's questions that arise. I certainly do appreciate your interest. Thank you very much.
So I think, Council, in order to, for Elizabeth to leave with a sense that we're committed to this, we had an excellent discussion last week at the region with Adrian Jugli, and I suggested to Elizabeth before we started this evening that what we need to do now is to come together. I would like to see some councillors, if you feel that this is something that you're interested in, that we could begin to meet. Carol would be at the table as well. We need to really start looking at some concrete solutions, but definitely having committed members of council would be an excellent place to start. So that'll be set up through the mayor's office, and we'll see where it takes us. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks very much, Carol. We'll move on now to recognition and achievements, of which there are none this evening, on to council minutes, and we have quite a number. Items 7.1 through 7.8 on the agenda. We'll deal with them as one. However, are there any questions of councillors? There being none, I have a motion. Moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Njima, that council approve the minutes of the following meetings of council. Council minutes of October 1st, 2018, the inaugural council minutes of December the 3rd, 2018, council orientation minutes of December 8th, December 12th, December 15th, and December 17th. Special council minutes of January the 7th and special council minutes of January 21st. Are there any questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding items 17.4 and 17.5 in the bylaw section of the agenda tonight, Phelps Homes is a client of my employer, so I will not be taking part in any discussion regarding those items.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do you have any comments to make? Nothing? Everything has obviously been filed. Thank you very much, Councillor, and we'll move on to delegations. There are no delegations this evening. We move on to correspondence, and we'll consider item 10.1, the Regional Councillors Report. Now, we've changed our meeting night, and I think we didn't tell Councillor Foster. However, he has provided us with quite a comprehensive report. So if you have any questions, Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I first of all wanted to acknowledge Councillor Foster for his effort to communicate with this council. You know, I think we've all seen updates and emails from Councillor Foster since the start of his council, and I think that's a valuable resource for us to know what's going on at the region. I think we're all aware that he does run a blog as well, that we can access that information. But I just wanted to, you know, publicly thank Councillor Foster for starting out this term of council with strong communication with this council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Timmers.
I was, had some comments very similar.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mary Easton. I was really pleased to see this report as well from Councillor Foster. And I think Councillor McPherson just spoke pretty much what I had in mind as well. I'm just really pleased with his communication so far. And the report I thought was very, very informative. I really was impressed with that report. And just to see his leadership at the region, the committees that he's going to be sitting on, it's very helpful. And I think it's a very good beginning to our relationship with our regional councillor. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right. The other, I could also add that, I'm just trying to think now. Yes, CEO Kirkopoulos and I also had a meeting with Councillor Foster, with Director Graham. We went over all of the capital items, and so he has a full list now of everything that is on the capital budget that involves the region, but also other items that we've been talking about over the last term, including the transportation issues and a number of others. So he has all those items, and it makes it very easy because now that we both have the same agenda, when we're at meetings and the staff are available to us, we can easily meet with them, particularly the transportation engineer, to get her attention, or even on the issues of waste management. He is very active, and it does make it much easier when you have a strong partner. So we'll move on now to the item 10.2, which is the proposed base services for the next collection contract for Niagara Region PW 3-2019 Niagara Region Public Work Committee. You can see that this made up a huge portion of this package this evening. And Mr. Kirkopoulos, do you have a few words about this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll also look to the clerk to provide some additional details. I think looking at the complexity of what's being asked, the fact that the region does and is seeking input from the municipality on a new waste collection contract, there have been some discussions about inviting Ms. Habermill back to committee. There has been an extension to the deadline by which municipalities have an opportunity to provide their feedback, and I think in light of what we've heard, in light of some of the inquiries that I know council has, it probably lends itself to us scheduling on a future agenda in February an opportunity for Ms. Habermill to come back and for council to provide a very fulsome perspective on these changes and to make your views and your opinions as it relates to this known. So I'm not sure if the clerk has anything further to add.
Madam Clerk, what is your recommendation?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I had a brief conversation with staff, and it's my understanding that it would be deferred to the February 6th Community Services and Infrastructure Committee, and staff can report back on recommendations going forward, and council can decide then what they want to address to the region. And I understand that the region is willing to come and make another presentation and answer any kind of questions from council directly.
All right, so that would be February the 6th, Community Services and Infrastructure.
That's correct.
Okay, any questions, Counselor? Any comments? Counselor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, I'm pleased to hear that they are planning to come back. I mean, obviously, this is a very lengthy document, a very lengthy report, but I think having this report now and being able to go through it makes their presentation a lot more valuable coming back to our council. You know, I saw some things in here that concern me, that, you know, they appear to be getting feedback that, you know, goes against what their recommendations are, and yet, you know, they still want to put them through. I guess there's other questions that I would have around the residents of Lincoln and the participation of the residents of Lincoln in this report, and/or what are we doing to lobby our residents? And obviously, the timeline is very, very tight to be able to do that. But, you know, I think we all know that there's a couple of services on the minds of our residents, and waste management certainly is one of them that they get passionate about. So just to you know, have this appears as though it's almost done with you know, the way they lay this out, and in the timeline we've got, I think it makes sense to get the region back here and to be able to, I don't know how we do some kind of Lincoln-focused input. I'm getting some emails myself, you know, basically from residents that have heard about this going on, and you know, that tells me a couple things. One of the things it tells me is that many don't know this is going on, or potentially don't know this is going on. So I do support a return of the region coming to us. I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So further to that, I think it's a great idea that we have a discussion about that again, not only for our own understanding and our own input, but also for an educational purposes for people that don't really understand what the initiative is for. I spoke tonight about the public engagement sessions that the region are putting on tonight. I spoke about that at the chamber, and we all spoke about it. Everybody at our chamber meeting had something to say and questions to ask. And by the end, it was understood really what the goal was, and I think it was very valuable to have that discussion.
Thank you very much. Ms. Beatty, could I ask you if you have knowledge of any plan in terms of how the public will be consulted, how we can communicate this to members of the public? What would your advice be?
Through you, Madam Mayor. This is a regional service and a regional-led initiative, so all I could offer at this time is that I'd work closely with the regional communications team and the Public Works Department to do the best that we can to inform our community.
All right, do we have, it is the potential for input and how to have input, is that on our website?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it was. The second round of soliciting feedback has not been on. I'm not aware of them doing another round. They did an initial round, which we shared. BIA had in their newsletter. Chamber was aware, and we were circulating on our social media channels.
All right. Okay, I think I'm just going back to Councillor McPherson's concerns about the level of knowledge that people have about all of this. Did you have anything else you'd like to say, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And you know, I think the region is, you know, they're obviously covering all 12 municipalities and doing a one of, you know, throughout the 12 municipalities. I would think that we would want to do more than that, and we would want to, you know, whether it's through, you know, I'm not suggesting that we put together a bunch of public meetings, because generally speaking, you know, the attendance is going to be questionable at this time of year whether we're going to get people out, but, you know, any other way we could at least get the word out, particularly on the changes that are being proposed. I think to put out a notice that, you know, there's, you know, waste input, what does that mean to people? But if we're putting out there that we're thinking about going to every other week and we are going to clear plastic bags, I think you're going to get more passionate, you know, responses from our community. So I think we've got to do our own thing in communicating to our residents over the next 30 days. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll get in touch with Catherine Habermo and share this information with her to see if she has any plans for more publication on the proposed changes in particular. So, motion to defer. Do we need a motion, madam? No. Thank you very much. Then that is the plan, and you'll see it again on February the 6th, and that'll give us a lot more time to go through this. So the next item on the agenda is 10.3, which is a note from the Niagara Region, January 17th, that speaks specifically to Lincoln and West Lincoln and the improvements to waste collection with the new contractor. And those first few days were pretty rocky. I'm not aware that there are any deficiencies at the moment. What about the rest of you? Nothing? Councilor McPherson? I have to press.
Thank you, Madam
very
Mayor.
hard.
And I happen to have the opportunity to talk to a couple of the truck drivers that were coming by my place, and very pleasant, very eager to do well, you know, and very good spokespersons for the that Canadian Waste. I thought they did a, you know, great job. There was a question that I had about 4 trucks showing up at the door, and that, you know, from what we've learned, you know, since then, there are going to be 4 trucks until they get the routes figured out. So for each one of your types of waste, they're gonna send a truck to see how the routes work out. So that was a good answer. I would also commend the region for the responses, the speed of responses to emails. Is Catherine? She's right on it, and you know, it's just fantastic to see, you know, that our residents' emails are getting that quick a response from her, and you know, I think we just got to give it some more time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's also an issue around the number of trips that they have to make to the waste sites. So with the additional trucks, it does speed things up as well. So this is good and a work in progress, really. The next item on the agenda is 10.4, and I will put 10.5 in the same category, as these are resolutions from both the City of St. Catharines first, 10.4, and 10.5 Niagara-on-the-Lake regarding wine and craft beer sales as part of modernizing alcohol sales. And I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Brunet. Whereas Ontario's grape and wine industry is an important and unique part of Lincoln's economy, whereas Lincoln has an emerging craft beer sector that continues to grow and expand, and whereas Lincoln has over 50 wineries, breweries, and distilleries contributing to both our local and provincial economy, creating jobs and investment across Lincoln. And whereas the Government of Ontario has announced its plan to modernize alcohol sales by expanding the sale of beer and wine to corner stores, grocery stores, and big box stores based on market demand, and has requested public input on its plan through an online survey until February the 1st, 2019. And whereas this decision represents a significant opportunity to strengthen both Lincoln's and Niagara's economy by growing Ontario's wine, craft beer, and spirits industry through increased consumer access. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Lincoln requests that the provincial government must include specific policies that support and expand the growth of 100% Ontario-grown and produced wines and Ontario-made craft beer and spirits in its retail channel regulations. And be it further resolved that the Town of Lincoln submit this resolution to the provincial government and area MPPs as part of the public consultation on the modernization of alcohol sales before February 1, 2019. And be it further resolved that this resolution be circulated to Niagara municipalities for consideration and support, and be it further resolved that town staff be directed to report back to council on a government relations strategy that ensures the importance of 100% Niagara-grown and produced wines and Niagara-made craft beer and spirits is recognized at Queen's Park. So let me first tell you, council, that I attended the mayor's roundtable that, I'm sorry, it was not a mayor's roundtable, but the mayors were invited to it. And this was a meeting that we had with the Minister of Finance, and I was able to present on a number of important items on behalf of the town of Lincoln. And Debbie Zimmerman, the executive director of the Grape and Wine, the Grape and Wine Council, was there as well, and we spoke to this issue. This was quite an intimate meeting, only about 45 people, and so it was easy to get his attention. So I'd like Mr. Kirkopoulos to speak to the last statement in regarding to the government relations, he or Mr. Deanne, because I believe that Lincoln should be doing more than just sending a motion. Mr. Deanne? You going to speak, or?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the council this evening. Having chatted with a lot of my colleagues throughout the region, as well as the Wine Association of Ontario, as well as the Grape Growers, there has been a concerted effort at Queen's Park to raise the profile of the Niagara wineries and the importance of that on our economy. So we are going to be lending our voice to their government relations strategies, and we will be coming back to council with a further report on our activities at Queen's Park.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Kirkopoulos, do you have anything further?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think Mr. Deanne highlighted most of our actions. I think it's always important from a government relations perspective that we are out there, that we are advocating on behalf of our businesses, and I think where possible, we've seen success in bringing those businesses along as an additional voice. So you'll be hearing more about that as Mr. Deanne highlighted.
All right, and the advocacy is really one in which the Ontario winery beer and distilleries are not treated in the same way that the importers are. And the tax structure and rules and regulations around the tax structure are really hobbling our businesses, and it's time for this to change. So if the provincial government, the government for the people, as they describe themselves, is serious about removing red tape, this is certainly one of the areas that would be tremendously beneficial to us. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor McPherson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very pleased to see our motion here tonight. You know, as a major producer in this industry, you know, would be remiss if we weren't out front of it on this and really joining Niagara and the Lake and the City of St. Catharines in this effort. And I really appreciate the thoroughness, excuse me, of our motion here tonight. So I'm very pleased to see it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Your pleasure on the motion. Those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you. Now, we will move on to item 10.6. 10.6 is the province's regional review. And in this document, it outlines who's going to be included in this review. Mr. Kirkopoulos, do you have anything to say about this? Any comments at all?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think similar to some of the other things on our agenda this evening, there will be an opportunity, and that will be shared through the region with local area municipalities for input. There is some change coming. I shared with members of council a little bit of information in terms of what is being shared at this particular point in time as it relates to consultation, who the provincial advisors are on this particular topic. So as more information becomes available, we will be sure to share it with both members of council and others who do seek that input. But I know you're getting a request, or will be getting a request very shortly, if it hasn't come in already, as a head of council, to provide some comment, and so we can work with you to determine how that moves forward and gathering input from other members of council at the appropriate committee.
That's great, and my appointment's already made, and it's at 10:30 in the morning, and I'm happy to have that time because they'll be fresh. I'm sure we'll have lots to say. Councillors, I also want to refer to the Berkeley report, which you may or may not be aware of. It was a consultative report, quite extensive, that was done back in 2000. And I made arrangement with Madam Clerk so that you can each have a copy of it. I believe that it will provide you with some context. It is, I don't want you to have any delusions about it being the solution, but it is it's impossible if you don't have a document like this to go to begin to formulate a context in your own mind about what might work best for us. So I appreciate the clerk's support in making all those copies. I think you'll find it quite a good read. And also, there's another meeting that I'll be attending. The mayors, the regional mayors will be meeting very soon, early in February, as will the West Niagara mayors. So these are all pieces that are on our agenda. So if you have ideas, if you want to get together as a group to discuss it, we can arrange. The time is short, as the time is with all of these things. We're getting a tsunami of policy, and the turnaround is very quick. So I've made sure that you have those available. Now, yes, Councillor McPherson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. So, when I saw this in the correspondence, I requested it be raised just for a question of what should we expect, and it sounds like the expectation, as we understand it right now, is that all will be channeled through the mayor's office, that individual councillors will not be contacted, to our knowledge at this point, that it's all going to go through the mayor's office. Is that
That's
the case?
correct. That
Okay,
is
thank you,
correct.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you. We'll move on now to item 10.7, which is the Lincoln Public Library Board minutes from December the 18th, 2018. And I have Madam Clerk, I don't have a separate motion for that. Beg your pardon? .7, all right. I understand, Councillor McPherson, you would like to speak to this motion?
Thank you.
Or to this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's with regards to the business arising, I believe it's 7.1 Selection Committee update. So it's with regards to the CEO selection, and we don't often get an opportunity for a CEO selection, and I certainly understand that the CEO works for the board, doesn't work for the council, and that the Library Act, covers all that. My question, I have actually two questions. One is the opportunity for council input to the CEO selection, not necessarily the person, but more the type of CEO we're looking for. Is that available? And my second question is around the board changing now, and is the current board that's moving out making this selection, or is the new board that's moving in making this selection?
Okay, I can help you with.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I can help you with the first question. The input was sought by the consultant that was hired by the library board, and before they began the search. And they made, I know that I was interviewed, I have no idea who else was interviewed, possibly Mr. Kirkopoulos was. And so we had an opportunity to provide input at that time. And the second item around the board selection, possibly, I think Mr. CEO will have answers to that. But do you have a question now, Mr. McPherson? Councilor McPherson?
Yeah, thank you. So that is my question. It does, with the transition and the selection happening at the same time, does it make more sense to wait for the new board, is my question.
Okay, all right. Then I'm going to go to Councilor Russell, because you sit on the board, correctly? Good idea. Let's go to the source. I'm pressing this very hard, Councilor, and it's not.
Oh, I got it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're in business. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor McPherson. The previous board will have a large say in what's going to happen. So there was a selection committee identified, which I believe is 4 or 5 of the board from last term, which included Councillor McMillan, former Councillor McMillan, and he is still going to be on that board or on that immediate selection committee. Once they get to final 1 or 2 candidates, they will then be brought to the board for a more fulsome interview process where they're going to be giving us a presentation. And that will be with the existing board, not the new board. So everybody on the existing board, chaired by John Kralt, will have a say in that process. So it won't be the new board, it'll be the old board. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on then to the recommendations from the standing committees, and we're considering items 11.1 through 11.6. Do members of council have any questions or comments on any of those items? I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor Ranjima that council approve the following recommendations from standing committees: General Business and Finance Committee minutes of January 7th, 2019, Committee of the Whole Budget minutes of January the 9th, 2019, Community Services and Infrastructure Committee minutes of January the 14th, 2019, Committee of the Whole Workshop minutes of January 16th, 2019, Committee of the Whole Budget minutes of January the 16th, 2019, Planning and Economic Development Committee minutes of January 21st, 2019. There being no questions or comments, all of those in favor, none opposed, the motion is carried. The next item is reports of municipal officers, and there are, I have no information about any reports. Notice of motion, councillors, are there any notice of motion? There being none, I'm seeking a motion then to receive and file council information packages, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer, seconded by Councillor McPherson. Getting better, Councillor. That council receive and file the following council information packages. Council information package January the 4th, 2019, January the 11th, 2019, January 18th, 2019. All those in favor of the motion? None opposed, the motion is carried. Madam Clerk, we have no correspondence. I have a motion. Moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Mikulik. Thank you. That council receive and file items listed in correspondence. Your pleasure on the motion? None opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you. There are no confidential items for consideration. We have 13 bylaws this evening. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers, seconded by Councillor Reimer, that leave be given to approve the following bylaws. 2019-04 Fees and Charges Bylaw 2019. 2019-05, a bylaw to dedicate certain lands for public highways as part of the Grandview Heights Plan subdivision and to assume the municipal services. 2019-06, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement with 1923270 Ontario Inc., Big Head Winery. 2019-07, a bylaw for site plan assumption agreement with Phelps Homes Limited, Kingsway. 2019-08 Z518, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw and remove the holding provision on Kingsway. 2019-09, repeal and replace bylaw 2018-90 to update legal description of road allowance in concession 6 between lot 20 and 21. 2019-10, a bylaw to authorize the purchase of property located at 4288 Mountain Street. 2019-11, to amend zoning bylaw and remove the holding provision on Centerville. 2019-12, to assume Lincoln Square subdivision. 2019-13, interim taxes levy 2019. 2019-14, temporary borrowing bylaw. 2019-15, to establish a weight restriction on Glass Avenue Bridge. 2916, business improvement area expansion bylaw. Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just a quick question, kind of under the category that if you don't know the answer, can you ask the question? So it seems to
Lawyers
me,
say no.
it seems to me that we approve a lot of bylaws, and I guess maybe a lot of these are rubber stamped, maybe they're housekeeping items. But through you, Madam Mayor, I just have a question with regards to 17.11, the 2019-14 temporary borrowing bylaw. So through you, Madam Mayor, I don't know if I can direct this to the Director of Finance or to the CAO, but is this, I see it's whereas the Municipal Act 2001, is this a housekeeping item? First question. Second question, have we ever used this bylaw before? And third question, are there other municipalities that are at the same time using this same provision for borrowing for capital expenditures?
Okay.
Thank you,
very
Madam
good.
Mayor.
That's fine. I'll ask Ms. Safani. Angela, would you mind coming to the podium? Because Councillor Brunet's question had a few parts to it. Councillor Brunet, would you mind asking your questions again?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Angela, as I mentioned, I see that this is a whereas of the Municipal Act, so obviously it's linked to the Municipal Act 2001. But just a question, is this really a housekeeping item, number one? Number two, have we ever used this bylaw in the past? And number three, is this common practices for most municipalities to use this provision for borrowing for capital expenditures?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is a standard regulation that we need to do annually. So under the Municipal Act, under Section 407, we are required to approve this bylaw annually. It's something we've done ever since I've been here, and I believe all other municipalities do the same thing annually as well. So we have never used it. If we were ever to enact on this, we would definitely be bringing that forward to council should we need any temporary borrowing. The point of this is to have this in place should we need money prior to collecting the taxes in a new year. And the dollars are based on the prior year budget on the calculation.
Thank you very much.
Satisfactory?
Absolutely, thank you.
And I have to sign off on it, and there is a limit to how much I can sign off on. However, there's a bylaw that's attached to it, so without the bylaw, it can't be enacted in any case. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Angela. All right, your pleasure on the motion. Motion is carried, none opposed. Okay. And I have a motion to confirm the proceedings of council, moved by Councillor Russell, seconded by Councillor Brunet, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2019-17, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Monday, January 28, 2019, being read a first, second, and third time. That bylaw number 2019-17 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. The pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. Are there any announcements by any members? Councillor Renchima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. From the Chamber, Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, as part of a collaboration between the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, Beamsville, and the Lincoln Public Library, the Chamber is holding monthly lunch and learn sessions, and they're designed to share resources, provide information, and build skills to enable you to grow and develop your business. This month's topic is effective leadership. The guest speaker will be Shane Malcolm from, he's the Executive Director of Leadership Niagara, and it's being held February 7th. I have the link here to register. I'll send it out to all councillors if you'd like to register. It's free. And also on February 15th, 2019 at 17 a.m. is the Breakfast with Politicians, also held by the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. It's at the Beacon Harborside. And again, I have the link here for registration, so I'll send it out to council after and for registration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Anyone else? I don't know whether you saw the Twitter feed or not, but I attended, the Leadership Niagara always holds their seminars. There's a course that I believe that Town of Lincoln staff actually have been involved. Some of our public works staff have been involved in it. And at any rate, one of their last days on leadership was on Friday, and I attended with Mayors Redekop and Mayor Ugolini from Thorold, Mayor Redekop from Fort Erie, and Mayor Senzik. And we were a panel. We try and do this annually, and they ask us questions about leadership and how we handle certain situations. And then we go into the crowd and we rotate around the tables. And the students this time had some very excellent questions about projects that they were working on. And it was quite interesting because it actually turned out to be kind of a who's who. They would have a problem and they would be seeking information from us about a way that it could be resolved or a good contact for them. And it was really well done. It was the first time that that they had chosen that methodology. Usually it's just a question and answer, but this was really, we had to work really hard this time. But this is, it's quite excellent. These people come from all walks of the industry and the hospital sector in particular. And it's just a great group, and many people of all different ages, quite young in their careers, and other more seasoned individuals. So it's always a great opportunity for the mayors to participate. All right, we have come to the end of our agenda, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet and seconded by Councillor Renchima that council on January 28, 2019 be adjourned. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, staff.